Disrupt Asia is the celebration of the startup ecosystem, which I think we all can agree to it. So next up, we have our morning keynote speaker. She is a serial entrepreneur and global business development expert. She has provided go-to-market strategy in 47 industries in 5 continents. Quoted by USA Today, NPR, and CNN, with articles reporting on her most recent work in Fast Company, The Business Times, and Yahoo Finance. She provides advisory and presentations to startups, property developers, city planners, and Fortune 100 companies. So I'll leave the rest of the introduction for her. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the morning keynote speaker, Cheryl Edison.
Aiboa. Pretty good, right? More or less? Let's try it again. Somebody tell me again how to say welcome, and I'll repeat. Can you tell me again? Aiboa. A little bit better? Welcome to Disrupt Asia 2017. Who here had a bit of a challenging time to get to this room today? Who had some challenge that you had to overcome in order to be here right now? Right? Right? Who here is happy to be here now? Yeah, me too. You know, we are standing on the edge of one of the most important times in the history of Sri Lanka. We're making this time important because we are here deciding that what happens next is good for Sri Lanka. That happens because each of us makes a decision. Each of us reaches out and forms a relationship that maybe we said no to before. Maybe now we're ready to say yes. In this world, there's really only 2 options: welcoming what wants to happen next or resisting it. Sometimes what wants to happen next is to the left or to the right. Most often, the greatest power we have is to welcome what wants to happen next from behind us. It's bringing forward what's behind us that causes the future that we want to occur. So now I invite you to be with me here today, to turn around to the person behind you who you may not have met, and to welcome them to Disrupt Asia 2017. Just turn around in your seat and welcome. Okay, that's it. That's all it takes. If each of us does that, we will make Sri Lanka the superpower startup ecosystem it is intended to be now. Let's see if the clicker works. Here we go. 1 button. Oh, good. It worked. In my work launching companies in 47 industries, the thing that I've noticed most is that it's always a combination between creativity, community, and commerce. How are those 3 elements linked together? In every ecosystem in the world, people come at it in a different way. There are different cultures in different countries and different value systems. Yes, it's true, all mothers love their children, but we go about it in a different way, whether we have kids or we don't. The ecosystem in the United States has been shown to be full of many, many startup cities that are happily engaged in building economies. Why? What's different about these cities that are listed in the top 20 by the Genome Startup Project. What makes them succeed? I want to know. I'm interested in learning. What are they doing now? And how are they changing it day to day to make it successful and to meet the opportunities that are emerging now? When I first saw this list, I noticed that where I live is the first one. Okay, yay. I'm visiting here from Silicon Valley. I started looking at, well, what is it about Silicon Valley? Everybody wants to know what makes it work. Well, in order to know what makes it work, it's really important to look at what doesn't work. So this morning, we will be looking just a bit for the next 35 minutes at what I've seen that works and maybe doesn't work so well. And I'm hopeful that we will work together today, beginning now, to make Sri Lanka the superpower startup ecosystem that it intends to be. That is the rightful next step for Sri Lanka. Notice that in the first 5 of the rankings, there are 3 cities in the United States. Okay. In the first 10, there's 5. What does that tell us? One of the things that it tells us is that English is the language that we got to use for business in this moment. Maybe not always. Maybe it hasn't always been that way. Maybe 1,000 years ago it wasn't. But in this moment, in order to be successful on a global level in an innovative startup ecosystem of the world, we probably are going to need to use business English and some of those ways and mores that are common to the English-speaking world in doing business. That's it. No big deal, right? Here's some brands. I'm showing these brands because this is the modern-day salt trail. Since the beginning of time, we have used the exchange of goods and services to connect with one another, to join, and to exchange things that are important to one another. These are brands which have distinguished themselves because they are crossing boundaries and in some ways ignoring that there are different nations. Instead, it is actually one world. Okay, I am from California. I do sound a bit like a hippie, but I'm telling you, I believe we are in one world. And one of the ways that we join in this one world is through commerce. When I pay you for the service that you have created, and it serves me well, I'm being grateful to you. I'm showing you that by giving you a bit of power. That power is money. Every time we exchange money, we are making more energy move, and we're making more good things happen. So we need to move our money. We got to move money. Now, why am I saying that? So I'm going to stop here and let you know right now something that I'm going to say many, many times in the course of the next 32 minutes. The entrepreneurs in Sri Lanka have one hurdle that they cannot overcome on their own. Entrepreneurs, whether they're 10 years old and beginning their first business or 60 years old and beginning their first business, need to be able to start a business now, not wait to be a huge business in order to receive money and gain the trust of the bank. We need to be able to get paid immediately. We need a payment gateway system. A payment gateway system that empowers entrepreneurs to exchange money at any time, at any place, 24 hours a day, 365 days of the year, will empower every person in Sri Lanka to move money and to make a business that works for them and their local community. So we created a hashtag, let me get paid. Let me get paid. We need to find the person who is the person that can say yes to allowing every entrepreneur to get paid, to allow every person who wants to give money to someone else in Sri Lanka or in another country for good cause, to make a good thing happen, to be able to do that. Hashtag, let me get paid. Where does it begin? So people say to me, well, how do you end up with innovation? Innovation is actually really simple. You take science, technology, engineering, and math, which here in Sri Lanka, you are amazingly good at, super good at, and you add art. Art is that element that allows the startup innovations to occur. It's the concept of play that releases the new ideas. Sometimes people say to me, but how do I avoid failure? I don't want to fail. Failure comes from a kind of concept that there's a yes or a no to everything. There's a right and a wrong. Sometimes in our school systems, there's a huge amount of information that we have to take on, and then put it back out exactly as it was given to us. That accuracy is the opposite of innovation. That's the opposite. It's not win-lose. It's not good-bad. It's freedom to innovate. It's playful. It's looking at the information that we received with fresh eyes and saying, now that I know that, what can I do? What can I do now? I can test and notice what happens next. That's innovation. It's in that world where every answer is yes and, not no, but. And it's not even yes, but. It's yes and. Yes and. So what's needed to advance here? You know, this is my second time in Sri Lanka. The first time I came out was in October of last year, and I came out to launch makerspaces. Makerspaces are places where innovation thrives, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about how makerspaces give birth to thriving economic communities. I'll do that a little bit later in this presentation. The other thing that we need is entrepreneurial culture. So for the rest of this presentation, I'm going to walk through with you what I've seen in the times I've been here in Sri Lanka, which is a very little bit of time compared to all the time that you've been here. I'll offer some ideas, and I invite you to take on what works for you, throw away the rest. There's nothing sacred in what I'm telling you. These are just ideas that I've seen work in 5 continents, 47 industries for my life. But that doesn't mean it's true for you. Here we have people at the door. Come on in and sit down. Come be with us. Come be with us. Come on in, guys. Come in, come in, come in. Yeah, welcome, welcome, welcome. Come on in. Does anybody want to ask me anything before I launch into all this information? Any questions? Huh? Okay, so here is how I have always advanced goals. It's pretty simple. First, I see the goal. I see what's happening now. I explore ways to possibly make something happen. And then I do my best to make it happen. Here are the steps that further describe it. Empathy is that ability to dive into a relationship with what I see. I define exactly what it is and what it isn't, and where the blurry edges are of what might want to happen next. Come on in, guys. Come sit down. Come in. Come be with us. I ideate, meaning I throw out every possible idea that may or may not work. Sometimes it's the most harebrained ideas that sound silly in the moment that actually work. Somebody said to me yesterday, now, you don't know who to talk to about making a payment gateway. How are you going to do anything? That's not going to stop me. I am very clear that that is what needs to happen next in Sri Lanka, and I will do whatever it takes to find that person. Every single person I speak to today, when I spoke with the Financial Times yesterday, I told them too. Who is the person? Let me get paid. Those entrepreneurs in Sri Lanka are blocked. Who's saying no that needs to say yes now? It's good for the whole country. Then I prototype. So my current prototype in the Let Me Get Paid campaign is to hashtag and to tell everybody I meet, absolutely everybody I meet. I pause and I explain deeply why it's good for that person standing in front of me, and I ask for their help. I can't do it alone. Time and money. You know, achieving goals usually takes resources. I'm putting my resource on having a payment gateway here for entrepreneurs. Money? Well, getting here was not free, right? Somebody got me here, and it costs me time and money just to be here. So everything actually costs time and money. It's important to look at how little time and money you can use to make the most amount happen. My goal is that before I leave Sri Lanka, approximately 10 days from now, we get a yes to having a payment gateway for entrepreneurs in Sri Lanka. Is there anyone here who agrees with me that that's a decent goal to have? Does anybody agree? Will you help me get that goal for us here in Sri Lanka? Will you help me? Yes. Yay! Good. I'm going to stop my presentation now. I'm done. Okay, here we go. And finally, implement. So you see, I'm in the process of implementing Let Me Get Paid. I don't care if I'm boring. I'm going to say it 100 more times. Let me get paid. That's how we have a go-to-market strategy that actually works. I'm going to say to you now that if hashtag Let Me Get Paid doesn't work, if speaking to every person I meet and contacting the press and asking the press to broadcast this also doesn't work, I will see what I need to do next. I will change my course of action. That's the willingness to notice that there may be something else I need to learn. That's the first step, seeing with fresh eyes. Okay. I made up this slide because I wanted to show you the elements that I've seen work in other ecosystems where startups thrive. The number one most important element is diversity. In Silicon Valley, more than the majority of the startups there, more than 65% are people who are coming from outside California, from outside the United States. That diversity creates more innovation and creates more startup culture. It's important to keep the resource requirements low and to stay as much as possible away from high resource requirements. This diagram is called a Gartner cross. It's kind of a standard way that we analyze things. I'm putting here one to many, which is one person telling one person. And at the top, that's where we're headed, is many to many. You notice how in the course of this conversation with you today, I've gone from this is my goal to, hey, are you with me? Will you do this too? That's me moving from over here, where it's one to many, and the resource requirement is high, to moving over here, many to many, where there's an exponential opportunity All of you could get the result. It doesn't have to be me. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm moving from the far left over to the upper right. Inflexible hierarchy. I don't know that we have to say much about this. This is when somebody has the right to say no and there's no collaboration. That is the past. That is not collaborative, and that will kill a startup economy. Rear view mirror regulations are fear-based. Those are decisions that are made by governments or agencies that are based on fear, moving away from instead of towards. Unempowered agencies are agencies that don't have the resources they need to make things happen that they really want to make happen. Here's where we begin to cross over into things that we can do to make good things happen. Celebratory events, flexible work-play areas, including maker spaces. The media is hugely important. We need to activate the media to say good things, to make good things happen, and to put out into the world all of those marvelous things that are emerging, that sparkle in the sunlight, to give other people hope that they too can do more good things. So we need to engage our media, whether it's social media or top-down, one-to-many media, as in television, news, publications. Volunteer. Well, do you notice how about 5 minutes ago I asked each of you to volunteer, to come with me on this path, to let me get paid? Every single person who steps forward without compensation for stepping forward is creating the opportunity for more good things to happen. When there's a volunteer economy, that's when a startup ecosystem really takes off. It's not about being asked to do the right thing. It's about stepping forward and doing the right thing because you see that's the next thing to do. Don't wait to be asked. Just do the right thing. Funding, money, 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 money. We got to move money in order to make good things happen. And that's how we end up with a self-fulfilling mission. We get our vision. So you know you're on the right path. This is just a little slide I created that shows some elements that you can see that tell you that you're headed in the right direction. The constraint begets innovation, meaning we embrace the constraints. We move towards the constraints. Example, who's the guy that's saying no, or woman, when they could say yes and let us have a payment gateway? Who is that person? That's a constraint. Happy people and happy cities. Okay, let's talk a minute about makerspaces. We need to have places where people can go and be and start their businesses and be around other people who are launching businesses. Likewise, we need mentors and coaches to be there to say, hey, come along. This is how you do it. This is how it works. It's that concept of reaching back and pulling the guy forward who might be behind you. Having a place where an entrepreneur can start a business at very low or no cost is what will make the difference here. Here are elements about makerspaces around the world that work. Are we proud to be here? Are we welcoming and friendly? Every time we reach out and say, hello, I'm glad you're here, to someone else, we're creating an ecosystem where startups succeed. That's what we're doing. In Silicon Valley, well, this was demonstrated with Daniel yesterday, we are continually talking about startups. Every conversation. Hey, I was thinking about. Oh yeah, my friend was thinking about. Well, why don't we introduce them? So that welcoming and friendly attitude is what creates more startups, being open and cooperative, not hierarchical. This event is a perfect example of a great event that makes startup culture advance. It's varied, it's happening once a year, it's celebratory and authentic, And I've been hearing people have some very playful conversations, exploring what wants to happen next. This is a great conference to make the perfect ecosystem evolve here in Sri Lanka. Can we just take a moment and thank the organizers of this conference for making such a great place for us today? Let's give them an applause. You know, showing gratitude is one of the best ways to make more good things happen. Actually acknowledging that something's happening that's working. We have to be able to move people from one place to another. Public transportation needs to work. There has to be a way that somebody can stop by and jump in to a makerspace and connect, because it's in the synchronistic encounters that all these good things happen. Here's the last parcel of elements. The place needs to be clean and organized. If the place is clean and organized, come on in, come be with us. Come on, come in. Welcome, 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 welcome. Welcome, welcome. Make room at the door so people can come in. Welcome, welcome. Ooh, all right, there we go. There's plenty of room for all of us. One of the things that I love about the education system here is that it seems to me to be a perfect blend of historic and modern. Yesterday I met with a group of 20 science, technology, engineering, and math teachers. Wow. They were in the most beautiful saris. They were gorgeous. I think that for me, if I was a student here, just looking at those beautiful women standing there giving this information would cause the information to be easier to take in. They were smiling all the time. It was really wonderful to be with them. Authentic and spiritual. So, you know, being spiritual is not about religion. My spirituality is to welcome every person that I come in contact with and to do everything that I can to cause the next good thing to happen. That's my spirituality. It's not particularly about a set of rules for being religious. It's about being present, being with you now, connecting with you, and learning what wants to happen next, and doing whatever I can to cause that to happen next. Comfy. So this is kind of something interesting. I keep noticing how there are chairs everywhere, but people are more comfortable sitting on the floor. So I invite you to have maker spaces where there's plenty of room to hang out on the floor, to have cushions and to have easy places, have couches, have environments that are welcoming and easy to be in, not so structured. There's a unifying force in a place that's built to serve the needs. We need to build places that serve the needs of our entrepreneurs. Maker spaces are places where entrepreneurs come, create community, and link between their creativity and commerce. Each of us is the CEO of our own life. This isn't particularly about being the CEO of a company. It's about noticing that we are responsible for the vision in our lives. I have the life that I am creating, as does everyone in this room, to the degree to which you're willing to take on that responsibility. This is a notion which will create more successful entrepreneurs, that we are each able to make things happen. We're each the CEOs, the COO of our lives. We're the ones who decided that we would show up here today. You decided whether your shirt was going to be clean or if you were going to wear your brother's shirt. Each person is responsible for how we get to the next moment that we're in. It will come as no surprise to you probably that we're each the chief marketing officer of our lives. What do I mean by that? I have my reputation. You have yours. That's your brand. Do people like to work with you? Do people want to create engagements with you? Are they asking you your advice? That's your brand. If we begin to deal with our entire world from the point of view of being a CEO and being responsible for our brands and what happens next around us, that's when a thriving ecosystem will emerge. CFO. Somehow people don't really like to talk about money all the time. I like to talk about money. Money makes good things happen. Money is equal to freedom because it's the exchange of power across borders. Whether you have 1 rupee in your pocket or 1 million rupees in your pocket, each of us is responsible for how we use that money. If a 5-year-old child has 1 rupee, he has an opportunity to decide whether he's going to put it in a little bank, use it to buy a sweet, or maybe use it to buy a gift for his sister or brother. So we each have an opportunity to make those decisions, and those decisions made earlier on in life create the opportunity for more and more decisions of greater sizes, and they become less scary. There's more playfulness around those decisions. Finally, each of us has a board. We each have a right to be surrounded by people that love us exactly as we are. You have a right to be around people who believe in you, who tell you that your decisions are great decisions, and who encourage you and speak directly to you and honestly to you about the things that you're doing with your life and support you. Anyone who's around me in my life that is continually saying, nah, that's too big a vision. Nah, that won't be possible. I have the opportunity to give them a pink slip. A pink slip is a little piece of paper that in the United States you might find on your desk when you come in the morning to the office that tells you you no longer have a job. I give people pink slips. You know what? You're not moving in the direction I'm moving. You're not helping. You're in the way. Let's make something happen. Let's move together collaboratively. And if that person is not really willing to do that, I give them a pink slip. It's okay. They'll go somewhere else and do something else. It's okay. If we want to make things happen, we're going to have to do things in a different way than we've done them up until now. We're going to have to break out from the things that we've done in the past that have been comfortable. Here is a framework to consider in making your decisions. The usual way is punishment or reward. Personal reward. If I do something, am I going to get something from it? When we advance our moral character, we end up with, I'm a good person, I'm a bad person. I'm following the laws. When we end up here, we make agreements with people that may not have been thought of in the past. We actually reach out into the present, in this moment, to decide what we can have happen now. I have no right to look for the guy who can say yes or no to the payment gateway. Who am I? I have no right. But I can step forward and I can say, are you there? Can you say yes now? And that's my willingness to step forward and make an agreement with him. He could say no or not, but I can step forward through a social contract orientation. I'm moving forward in my purpose. So effective CEOs lead with courage. They lead by being tenacious. We take care of ourselves, and we drive our minds. Am I ever afraid? Do I ever have a thought that's pulling me back? Sure, but I'm going to drive my mind. I'm deciding what I'm thinking. My thoughts are not telling me what I'm thinking and feeling. I'm telling my thoughts what I'm doing. I'm the driver. Money is okay. It provides freedom. Market your truth. And finally, communicate effectively. I'd like to say that I believe that the next step for education in Sri Lanka is to have business English classes from kindergarten. That's what I think. I think every child should be able to have a business conversation, should know how to negotiate, should awaken being able to make a deal. Mom, I don't want to go to bed now. Okay, well, why not? How about negotiating and coming up with maybe a compromise? Most business deals are compromises. They're not top-down, yes, no. Well, I'd like to spend 5 more minutes sitting on your lap before I go to bed. Okay, 5 more minutes. It's all right to negotiate. Let's talk about some big successes in Silicon Valley, just for the fun of it, that had humble beginnings. Here's this guy, Hewlett, this guy, Packard. Here was this house. Here was a little makerspace they made. Garage. Hewlett Packard, we've heard of them, right? $50 billion in revenue. That's kind of a nice number. Here's another one. Anybody recognize this guy? Yeah, Steve Jobs. His garage, that's what his messy place looked like. Pretty messy, right? Worked for him. Did you know that $50 billion of that money is just iPhones? Kind of wild, huh? The rest is split between iPads and computers. It's all iPhones. That blows my mind. You guys know who this is? Microsoft. We have a joke in Silicon Valley. We say, would you have invested in these guys? I don't know. The funny thing for me about this slide is that these guys started in Albuquerque, New Mexico. They started because Paul Allen showed a magazine called Popular Electronics to this guy, Bill Gates. And they decided that they wanted to do this kind of interpreting program called BASIC for this computer called Altair. And they sold that program to the company that had those computers before they made it. They didn't have it. They just saw that it was needed. And so they said, okay, we're going to build it. And they had 8 weeks to build it. Creativity loves constraint. And they built it, and they sold it, and in that way, they launched Microsoft in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I spent a good part of my youth in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and let me tell you, it's of no wonder to me that they left there fairly soon after and moved to Seattle. Okay, Sri Lanka. Beautiful gem, Sri Lanka. You know, I've come to love Sri Lanka. Every person that I meet is a very special person who is just making things happen the best way they can. And I've been so touched by every interaction that I have had that it makes me want to come back here again and again and spend more time here and do whatever I can to make good things happen here. Here's what I see as needed. Number one, we need the infrastructure. Let me get paid. Let me get paid. Number two, Oh, here, I'm going to just put it up on the screen big. Instagram that, Twitter it, speak it, please. Information services. Information is the wonderful system that you have here for education, in which you provide correct data. You provide information. Services is the ability to transform that information through coaching and business services into innovation and new types of business revenue models. This is my representation for makerspaces. It's fertile ground. Startups, little sprouts. What do the little sprouts of trees need? Right. Those trees need funding. They need resources. If the rain does not come down to those startups, they cannot grow. So here's what we're going to do today in this conference. Number one, I'm going to share this model for business innovation. We'll pass this out to everybody who wants a copy. This is the system that I've used on 5 continents, 47 industries. In the makerspace that I launched in Silicon Valley last, we launched 101 companies in the first 11 months and 1 week. This is how I do it. So you can have this. If you want it, take it. If there are parts that work for you, great. If it doesn't work, throw it away. This is just how I do it. Let's kind of get through it here because I'm supposed to finish up. The most important part about this slide, you see how we go over here to implementation, and then we go back over there to strategic planning again. That's what happens when you have a successful startup. You go back around and you do it again because we're playing, we're testing, we're experimenting. We're also going to be using this schematic. Why? This is one example of one deck that's used in every country I've ever been in. This is the way that startups communicate their ideas to people who could invest or become strategic partners. It's pretty simple. Each one of these bubbles is one slide in a 10-slide deck. That's it. It's that simple. It's not harder than that. If we all use this same system, then we can communicate across all of the languages. This is really all you have to do. Each one of these is a slide. The problem, the solution, your superpower. If you do this, if you use this format, then the investors have a better idea of what it is you're up to and how to invest in your company. We have to find a common language for communicating with one another. That common language, that common structure allows there to be a foundation for more good things to happen because we can connect more firmly with one another and one another's ideas. Hashtag, let me get paid to move money around Sri Lanka quickly and easily in and out of the country. Please join me in looking for ways that we can be creative here and we can have that end. Oh gosh, community and commerce. Oh, let's see here. Oh boy, well, whatever. Please join me in finding ways and our worldwide community can join to make more good commerce happen here. Let's make it here. Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, shall we give a big round of applause, another big round of applause for Cheryl Edison.